Hello, my name is Dorothy Bennett. I'm the Director of Creative Pedagogy at the New York Hall of Science, and I'm happy to be here with my colleague Nick Hartman to talk to you about a project at our Science Center in Queens, New York, that focuses on fostering middle schoolers' computational thinking within an open-world game. The PAC, developed by NYSCI in collaboration with Design.io and the Columbia Earth Institute, is a game that pairs scientific reasoning with computational thinking. And with funding from the Department of Education, we're working with Participate and American Institutes for Research to develop and test instructional materials for middle school science teachers to integrate the PAC into their instruction. Now, when we say computational thinking, what do we really mean? Well, there are lots of definitions out there, but one that we found useful was from Jeanette Wing that states the critical thinking processes involved in formulating a problem and expressing its solution in a way that a computer, human or machine, can effectively carry out. It is applicable to any domain. So that goes beyond coding and beyond computer science. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Nick, who's going to give you a basic walkthrough of the game.
Great. So now let's explore Algos and the PAC a little bit more. So here we can see an environment in Algos, and as you can see, part of it needs to be restored. So we have this friend trapped in this bubble, but we can't seem to save them alone. So in order to save them, we actually have to collect all the seeds throughout the land. And we do that by partnering up with all of these different creatures that reside in Algos. So here you can see all the creatures that live there, and each perform a very different function. In order to get them to join your PAC, you need to give them a fruit that they really like to eat, and each creature likes a different fruit. So in order to perform different functions and get through the game, you want to build different algorithms. So here you can see on the algorithm editor, we're combining these different creatures that each perform a different function to perform a task. Right, so let's see. We combine these creatures, and it looks like they are breaking these rocks right here. So we can access that seed. Right. So here we have another creature digging, and now we can get that seed. And once you get all the seeds on a level, you actually unlock a new biome and a new creature that you can collect to join your PAC. And that is kind of how you progress through the game.
Thanks, Nick. Well, in developing our instructional materials, we thought it would be useful to have a conceptual framework for teachers that could help guide their instruction and also cue them into what they could be looking for in students' thinking as they're working in the game. And those concepts are decomposition, breaking a problem down into its manageable parts; pattern recognition and generalization, finding patterns in smaller problems to solve more complex ones, and also reusing and remixing solutions for new purposes; abstraction, focusing in on the relevant information and getting rid of unnecessary details; algorithms, the heart of the work that you do within the PAC game. And those are a series of rules or instructions to help solve a problem or complete a task. And finally, debugging, the ability to evaluate your solution and iterate on your design. Well, there are a number of key factors in fostering computational thinking for diverse learners in an open world game. One important feature of open world games, and the PAC in particular, is the opportunity to provide multiple routes into gameplay. In the PAC, a player could be perfectly happy, for example, farming, where they're driven to find all of the seeds in the environment for most of the game, while others are much more focused on programming the robots and instructing them what to do through the little algorithms they create. Regardless of these different types of gameplay children engage in or the motivations they have, they will be thinking computationally to solve problems encountered in the world because it's built into the logic of the game. Another related but important factor are around the PAC members themselves. The pack characters really provide an inclusive and empathic entry point for particularly non-coder types to learn about the creature's different functions and actions, which ones work best together, and which ones are best used to solve certain problems. And finally, another very important feature of the game are the game mechanics themselves that are instantiated in the pack characters. And these game mechanics encourage trying out different ways of approaching similar problems in a low-stakes environment. And you basically have two casts of characters, the predefined ones like dig, move, bump, and build, that are predefined in the quantity of how much they move or how much they dig. And then player-defined actions like repeat, where you get to define the parameters of how often. Combining these creatures in different ways to solve problems is really at the heart of this open world game and the building blocks of algorithms. Now, in addition to the game mechanics, what's really important is what you also do outside of the game, and that's supporting meta-reflection and conversation among students and players of the game. And we're doing that in our instructional material development by creating reflection sheets, discussion prompts, and challenges that really invite the children to reflect on the kinds of problem solving that they're doing in the game. And here is featured one dilemma sheet where a typical dilemma from the game, like what do you need to get that distant seed, is presented. And the students are asked to kind of reflect on and share their problem-solving sequence. What's really valuable about activities like this is not only getting the students to reflect on their own learning, but when they share their strategies with each other. It's a great learning lesson for how problems can be solved in more than one way, and computational thinking is a really interesting and important tool for that. Now, we're doing that very specifically through our instructional materials for each of our core concepts. And so in the case of decomposition, that idea of identifying a problem and breaking the problem into manageable parts, we're creating reflection tools where the students are being invited to ask questions like, what problem am I dealing with? How can I break this problem into smaller tasks? What obstacles might there be? And what can I do first? And then, of course, presented with a scenario like this, where a seed is far away in an arid environment. What do I have to do to get there? We're currently in the process of piloting our materials and resources in schools throughout New York City, but we can really use your help. If you'd like to be a critical friend as an educator who would like to review the materials and give us some feedback about their usefulness, or if you'd like to actually try this out with your students or your campers over the summer, we'd love to have you. So feel free to contact us. Me, Dorothy Bennett, at dbennett@nysci.org, or Nick Hartman at nysci.org. And you can also go to our website at nysci.org and search for the pack, and you'll find many of our resources there and other information. And download the game. It's for free on the App Store, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.